Hello and welcome to another training session, and in today's session we'll be creating something similar to the picture on the right, and this is chosen by Revit, and as part of week 6 where we choose our own image and we try to recreate from the image, and this is what I have developed and what I'm going to guide you to create in this session over here. So this is the Revit model, and it's going to take about 20 to 30 minutes, and some of you might, if you are not comfortable with modeling yet, I would suggest you to go to week 5 and make sure you practice everything in week 5 before you kind of engage in week 6 lessons, because this is much tougher to create, much more complicated. So without further ado, if you are still here, let's begin creating this what I call the Paris cabinet. So File, New, Family, Generic Model as always. So once you open Generic Model, you have these two default or pre-given reference plane. So what I need to do is to create more reference plane for the vertical ones and the horizontal reference plane. Dimensions, EQ, parameter later on. So this is the very usual step. So this is where I'll assume that the cabinet on the right is kind of flat or symmetrical at least. So this will be the bottom length, and this will be bottom length as well because it's symmetrical. I'm just going to make it, okay, let's visit over there. And what I'm going to do is, as you can see in the picture, the top is lower than the bottom. So I'm just going to create another reference plane for the top length of the drawer itself. So I'm just going to create two more in between because it's definitely smaller. Again, dimensions and parameter. So for this, I will name it top length and set this to top length as well. And what I'm going to do is go to the family types, change this to 1000, and the top length will be bottom length divided by 2. That is the formula over here. So since it's larger at the bottom and smaller at the top, you can use the blend, solid blend. So just going to select the bottom length reference plane, lock all of them, click on the edit top button, and then for the top it's going to be smaller, so these are the reference plane, the one that is inside. So again, lock them, press the green tick, after which go to the front elevation. I'll create a new parameter for the height. Over here, and I'm just going to make sure that this blend that we just created is being aligned to the reference plane. And as we're going to set some formulas, I'll set height as bottom length times 2. So that it is. And as you can see, let me take a look. As you can see in the 3D view, this is just a pretty flat surface, whereas in the picture you can see there's curved surface. So what we're going to do is, since we have a flat surface, is to use a void extrusion to cut the existing geometry so that it reflects a curved surface. So we're going to go to front elevation, create void forms, void extrusion. I'll use the pick lines over here, click on the reference plane, click on the top reference plane, And before we proceed, I'm just going to do the start end radius arc from the top here to the bottom. I'm just going to set this as about 15,000. Okay, so the curvature is about 15,000 in length over here, and then make sure you trim all the existing corners. And same for the other side. We'll do both sides in a single void extrusion. Pick lines, lock it, pick lines, lock it, and then what I'm going to do is just to mirror this over to the other side. Use the trim command to make it shorter. Press on the green tick and go to the floor plans reference level. You can see the void created is over here. Okay, what you're going to do is make sure they're aligned to the front and the back. So if you go to 3D, you can see it is partially or there's some curvature on the side. So this is the void. It's hidden. And what we need to do is assume that all four sides are curved. So I'll go back to my reference level, and then this is the void. I'm just going to make another copy of it to the side. Okay, I can't see. Okay, it's over here. And then after I make another copy, I'm just going to rotate it by 90 degrees. And there you go, the void is actually here. Okay, it's much easier to see. The void is here. Again, align to the sides, align to the other side, and open the 3D view. You can see the curvature over here. And I tested some other formulas. Actually, if you have the top length to be divided by 3, then you have a more curvy cabinet. You can see the difference here. So you have the top is much smaller than the bottom, so you can see more of the curve itself. So after we are done using the void extrusion to cut the existing shelf, we're going to create the kind of the void at the bottom over here, and then I will do it in the elevations. Front elevation, create void forms, void extrusion. I'm just going to use the pick lines for the bottom, lock it, and I'll just draw a simple arc, start and radius arc, this point, and it's a semicircle. Just trim it, press the green tick, go to the floor plan reference level. This is the void that is created. Make sure to align it to the front and back as well. So to the front, to the back, and then I need this void. I'll copy this void again. So it's here. The void is over here. I'll rotate it by 90 degrees. Okay, and then this is the void. I'm just going to adjust it so you can see clearer. Align the void to the left and to the right. Open up the 3D view. You can see there's the gap. So obviously, I'm not going to follow exactly as what the kind of not too close to the image, basically just for training purposes. But obviously, you can easily create this shape in Revit once you practice enough. So this will be the shape for the legs, a bit much more larger, and we'll leave it as that. And next we are going to create the void for the drawers, and I'm going to go to the front elevation. So you can see in the picture there's a total of 5 drawers over here. So what I'm going to do is create 5 more reference plane in the front elevation. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put a dimension, and while you're putting a dimension, make sure that they are being separated. As you can see, they are not clumped together. All of them are individual dimensions. So this I will name it as drawer or first drawer. The second dimension is second drawer. Third drawer. Fourth drawer. and the fifth one here, drawer. And I just make sure that I set the scale to be smaller so it's more visible on screen. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth drawer. And I'm just going to apply a formula for the drawers based on the picture. You can see the top one is much more smaller than it goes larger as it goes lower. So in this family types panel here, I'm just going to give some formulas to this over at the first to fifth drawers parameter. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to paste this formula because I've done it earlier, and I'm just going to change some of these figures, 1.5 to 25, and last is 3. So the reason why I multiply by 0.1, 15 to 25, 3 is because when you add all these numbers together, they actually give you 100% in total. So 3 plus 2 plus 1, 6 plus 15 plus 25 will give you 100. And then the reason why I minus top length divided by 2 is because if I move this to the smaller here, so this semicircle, obviously I have to put a drawer above the gap at the bottom. So this gap is actually, you can see these two reference plane at the moment. This represents the diameter of the top length, which is 333 at the moment. So half of this, or a quarter of the semicircle, would means I need to take the top length divided by 2. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm actually minusing this portion over here, and then the rest, the remaining from the top to this above the void, can be used for the cabinet. So I minus first for top length divided by 2, and then I just set some equations so that the top will be smaller than the bottom. So that's about it. Press the OK button. So here we have the reference plane adjusting to the formulas that are given in the family types browser. And next, I'm going to create the void for all of the drawers, and we will start from the top drawer first. So I just go to the front elevation, void forms, void extrusion, and then what you're going to do is just draw two lines across, because now I'm creating the void for the first drawer. Just make sure your lines are in between these two reference plane. Use the pick lines tool, pick on the curved surface, and before trimming this, just make sure to use the move command to move it about 50 to the right, and then this one will move 50 to the left. Okay, and then begin trimming. After which, I'm just going to put a dimension. So I'll set the void offset as 15, bottom as 15 as well. Just lock this and lock this as well. So I'm just going to press the green tick, and I go to the 3D view. You can see I have created kind of a void for the first drawer to be there. We will create the actual door later on. So right now we're just making sure there's a kind of they're not solid in the middle, but they have gaps in the middle. So that's the purpose that we are creating the void. And I'm just going to test my parameters, change the bottom length. Okay, you can see, excellent, it's adjusting very well. Okay, so since it's going very well, I'm just going to create more void extrusion from the front elevation for all the remaining drawers from 2 to 5. Create void forms, void extrusion, and slightly different steps. So while you're creating 2 to the second to the 5th drawer, you can use the pick lines tool, pick on the first drawer, okay, the line, lock it, pick on the other side, lock it, and then now you can trim it. So what this means is the curvature of the second drawer will always follow the curvature of the first drawer, and the remaining third, fourth, and fifth drawers curvature will always follow the first one, which we'll be doing later. So again, I'll just dimension the offset to be 15, 15, and lock it on this side. Press the green tick, create void forms for extrusion, create two lines, use the pick lines command, pick the first drawer's curvature, remember to lock it, use the trim command, do a dimension, offset it as 15, lock the 15, press the green tick, do it again, oops, wrong one, create void forms for extrusion, draw two lines, use the pick lines command, pick, lock, trim, dimensions, lock it as 15, green tick, and one more, the last one, kind of tedious process. Pick lines over here, pick, lock, trim. Okay, so basically the fifth drawer, fourth drawer, third and second drawer, the curvature follows the first one, and you realize that I don't actually pick the curvature from the fourth drawer while I'm doing the fifth one. So I don't want it to have multiple layers of connection or relationship in Revit. I don't want fifth to follow fourth, fourth to follow third, third to follow second. This will be more complicated. So basically what I want is have the first drawer as set curvature, and the rest of the drawer will always follow the first one, and therefore there's a kind of a singular relationship, and it's easier to manage that way. So if you can, always try to not create too many layers of relationship. Just make sure that if you have something to use, as you can see the first drawer, the curvature can be used repeatedly, so I'll just always, all drawers will follow the first drawer shapes itself. Okay, so there it is. Press the green tick. I'm just going to open my 3D view. As you can see, the fourth and fifth one is not there. The reason why it's not there is you have to go to the left elevation. You can see the void are all here. Okay, so I just make it shorter. The void are the one in orange color. They are not protruding out, therefore you cannot see for fourth and the fifth drawer. So what I'm going to do is use the align command, align here, lock it, align here to here, lock it, align here to here, lock it, align. So all the voids will actually reach out to the exterior reference plane, and making sure that it always pass through the cabinet that's located in the middle. So if I go to 3D view, you can see it's over there. So the fourth and fifth one is now visible because I extended the voids as the base is larger than the top. Just going to try putting some numbers, and perfect, they are working as intended. Let me try a little bit higher. Excellent, very well done. Okay, so that is and before we proceed, just go to the left elevation. What I'm going to do is just create another reference plane, okay, about 50 mm, and lock it, and this is where my void extrusion will end. So I'm just going to align this to the back, lock it, align to the back, align to the back, and here, and the last one here. So now in the 3D, you can see they are all kind of maybe not so, you can't see very well in 3D, but they basically cut the same distance as you can view it from the left panel. And the next step is to create the doors, because right now we'll do it in the left elevation. Create extrusion, and I'm going to use the pick lines command. Click on the curvature, lock it, and I'm just going to start here about 10 mm, go towards the bottom, and here you go, trim the remaining portions. I want to align my door to the sketch, or the sketch to the door actually, and then put the dimensions. Just leave it as 10 mm, make sure it's locked, so that regardless of how high the tower actually changes, I have locked them to the bottom of the first drawer and the top of the second drawer, and it will always remain input, and the curvature will always adapt to the existing conditions of your cabinets. So that is the first one, and I'll press the green tick, and then I'll do the second one, extrusion, select, lock it, draw a line from here about 10 mm, go downwards, complete it, trim it, lock it, align it. Oops. Make sure when you align to the line and not the point. So this is the wrong one. Just align to the line instead. Same for the bottom. Press the green tick. And we're going to do this for third, fourth, and fifth drawer. So it's going to be a little bit faster. Pick lines, pick the curvature, draw a line from the top, 10 mm, to the bottom, trim it, align it, make sure that is 10 mm, press the green tick, extrusion, command, this, lock it, draw 10 mm, basically the same steps. Did I lock this? I might have forgotten to lock this, so I'm just going to do again. Okay, there you go. And in the 3D view, you can see I've created all the doors. Obviously, they're not in the right position yet. However, I just want to do some testing to make sure that the height is being adapted. As you can see, as my tower goes longer and the drawer changes in size, my doors are in the appropriate height. I think there's some issues with the third one over here, which I'm just going to redo this third drawer. So what's wrong with the third drawer? I suppose I didn't lock the curvature, so that should help. Okay, let me try again. 1500, and perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go to the front elevation. As you can see, the door is all towards the side. So you might be wondering what I'm going to do next. But just stay on and you would probably get a gist of what's going to happen. So the door that we created, as you can see, the gate is kind of slanted, but we created a rectangular shaped door, exactly flat on all sides, and therefore if I would try to adjust, okay, you can see that it's not perfect. It doesn't fit into the hole. So what I'm going to do is later on I will use a void extrusion. to make sure that I cut the doors to fit directly into the hole of the cabinet. And what I'm going to do now is to align to the doors to the exterior reference plane. All the doors to the exterior reference plane. Okay, so we go to 3D, you can see it looks like that, and it's supposed to look like that for now, so do not worry too much about it. And the next thing, again, I told you that I was going to create a void to cut the doors to fit the shape of the kind of the gap in all the drawers. I'll go to the front elevation, create void forms, void extrusion, pick lines, pick this line over here at the top, pick the exterior reference on the left, and then I'm going to pick this curvature of the first drawer, lock it, and I will just trim off this. Okay, so when you have a void extrusion, it's okay that it's protruding somewhere, it does not affect too much. And I'll do the same for the right hand side. Reference plane, top reference plane, lock is over here. Remember to lock all the time. And in the curvature of the first drawer, lock it. Use the trim command to trim it. So that is the void extrusion that I'll be creating. Press the green tick. Do a 3D view, and you can see it's a little bit confusing. But I'll just go to before I go to the floor plan reference level, I can notice that my newly created void, which is this one over here, the one that's being selected, is cutting into my drawers or to the body of the cabinets, which I do not want it. So this is basically done automatically by Revit. It used the void that I created to cut through the existing shape, which is the drawer. So I do not want that to happen, so what I'm going to do is use the uncut geometry at the top left hand corner. I'll select my shape, my blend, and then I'll uncut it with the void. So there's two voids, you're going to be very careful which one you're selecting. So this is the one that is created for the drawers, but it's cutting onto the body, so that's what I want to uncut from. And you can see now that I press the uncut button, the shape goes back to normal. My doors are kind of proper at this point in time. So what I'm going to do is go to the left elevation, and there is a void. This is not this void. Remember, the void that I created specifically to cut the drawers is a bit longer. So I'm just going to spend some time trying to find the void. Not this one. Where is it? This one? Maybe it's this one over here. Okay, so if this is the void, I'm just gonna make sure that where is it again? Okay, wait a moment. I'm just gonna find a void. I saw it. Here. Okay, this is the void that is created. I know the void that I just recently created is this one because I know it's out of shape a little bit. So I just make sure that the void is aligned with the front reference plane and also aligned with the back reference plane. Go to the 3D view, and for the first, second, and third drawer, they are cut with the void, but the fourth and fifth is not at the moment. So I use the cut geometry tool. Not this one. It's a longer one. So where can I find a longer void? I will just click the drawers first, and then I'll figure out where to locate the shape. Oh, this is hard to find. not this. As you can see, yeah, this is the shape. You can see at the bottom it is protruding more than the base of the cabinet, so that's the one that I'm going to select. Now do it for the last drawer, and there you go. The door is perfectly created, just so that you see a little bit of color. Okay, so that's the door. What I'm going to do is just make sure that everything is working again, and there you go, it is working. So the last thing I'm going to do is just to create the handle of the door. And I know by now you guys are going to be very confused, or I'm not even sure if you can reach this stage and everything's working fine for you. So we're just going to keep it short, and what I'm going to do is just create a simple drawer, and obviously it's going to look kind of different from the picture, just to keep it simple and just to make sure we can make it easier for everyone to just do this Paris cabinet. So I'm going to open my left elevation, and then I'm going to create extrusion. So what I'm going to do is use the pick lines command, click on the curvature, click on the lock, and I'll just create, let me create the handle for from the bottom to the top. So I'm just going to draw any lines from anywhere, but I'll just keep this as about 50 thickness. Drawing back, trim it, let me see what I need to do. Okay, I'm going to lock this as 50 because I want the fifth cabinet to be 50 mm thick for the handle. And then I'm going to do a dimension to the bottom of the handle. Oops, wrong. Bottom of the handle. Press the EQ sign. And then what I'm going to do is also make sure that not make sure, but just to create all the handles in one single sketch, because it's possible to do it in the left elevation. So pick lines again, now I'm going to do the drawer in the fourth drawer. Use the line command, and instead of 50 I'll use 40, so I'm just going to make it smaller. So what I'm going to do is just to make sure that the handle gets smaller as it goes higher. Keep it as 40. Use the EQ sign to the bottom, trim it. The next one is the pick lines, lock it, draw some lines in the middle. Now instead of 40 I will use 30. Do a dimensions, lock, EQ, and trim. Okay, just going to adjust it a little bit using the arrow on your keyboard. And now the second drawer, again, pick lines, pick on it, lock it, draw some lines. Instead of 30, now it'll be 20. Dimensions, lock it, EQ on the side. It's a little bit too ugly here, and let me just make some minor adjustments. Okay, the last drawer, pick lines, lock it. I'll just do 10 for the last drawer. Dimensions, lock it, equality sign, trim. Oops, trim this, make it make it shorter. Okay, that looks better. So having done this, press the green tick, go to the 3D view first. Now let's go to 3D view so you can see what's happening. So there is the handle for all the drawers. However, they are not in the center of vertical center of the drawers. So I just go to front elevation, and what I'm going to do is just to create 2 additional reference plane that will control the length of the handle. Do a dimension separately. I'll just keep it as 50, and the other side is 50, so that so all handles are 100 mm in length. Make sure they are locked. Press the align command for my drawer, and then align to the right side. 3D view, and there you go. And just one final check. Final check. Oops, where did it go? So lucky I did a check. So the 4th one has a problem. So I'm just going to go to the left elevation, click on it, edit extrusion. Probably this is not being locked. So click on the pick lines command, click on the curvature, lock it, trim it, press the green tick, 3D. Let's try again. There you go. The handles is bigger to smaller, and that is the Paris cabinet. So thank you so much for tuning in, and this is a very complicated, or I'll not say complicated, but more advanced family construction, where if you're not able to catch up with all this, do not worry. Make sure that you complete, or you can on your own complete week 5 families that before proceeding to week 6, as these are again more complicated. And so see you in the next training session.